lines and reinforcing those. We do have containment lines around the fire currently. There's no threat to the fire getting out of those containment lines at the moment. We're working on the southern slash southwest containment line to make sure that that is prepped for the wind shift that is predicted to happen later this afternoon. The winds are going to be coming out of the north and primarily affecting that containment line area. So those are going to be one of our major areas of consideration on our efforts this afternoon. And again, this afternoon, later at around 3:15, Judge Pape and a couple other agency officials will be talking more about evacuations and giving some more updates on that. Are there any other questions?
Yeah, Alex, could you describe, I was out there on the ridge line
Yes.
and I was noticing a few little pop-ups. And so has that been the focus today? We've got the line circle cut, and now it's kind of like making sure, there's no embers that can come out of those stumps?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So our focus right now is to, again, make sure we're reinforcing those containment lines. And then from those containment lines, we're moving inwards. Many of our fire crews are going inside the fire perimeter to put out the spots that we're seeing, making sure that any active fire is well away from our containment lines. And so putting out those smoldering areas is one of the priorities.
I've seen some pictures from early this morning that glow along that line. That really tells the tale. We've lost the heavy smoke today,
yeah,
but this thing is still active, isn't
it? It's not as active as it was last night. Because of the conditions last night with the recovering humidity levels, lower winds, we're seeing a lot less active fire than we were previously. So again, that is also offering our crews a very, very good chance to make headway, not only on building containment line earlier today and earlier last night, but making sure that we're building off that containment line into the fire perimeter, making sure that the fire is out that way as well.
And on that southwest side, how many residents are y'all concerned about that are still there?
I don't have an accurate number on that currently, but we can work on getting that. Again, we're going to be talking about evacuations if there are evacuations either planned and or the evacuations that are going to be lifted later today around 3:15.
As far as today and now, as resident home structures, those numbers are unaffected?
Yeah, so we are recording and have reported no residential structure loss, and again, no injuries in this fire as well.
When you say no residential, I heard that this morning too. Have we lost some barns and some sheds?
I don't have anything verified on that yet, but we may have some more information about that later this afternoon.
And I noticed Bluebonnet has been out working, so some of the lines, the fire took out some of the lines, and that's why we're seeing Bluebonnet work.
So from what I understand, Bluebonnet was out here to cut the power to some of the areas because we were concerned about some of the power lines coming down, and they are currently out here, now that it's daylight, checking the lines, making sure everything's good, and working on restoring power to the affected areas.
The cold front that's coming in tonight, how are you expecting will affect the firefight or fire conditions?
So it may increase fire behavior a little bit, but again, we're working on the southern area because that wind is going to be coming out of the north to better prepare for that wind chill.
Should residents be concerned?
Not at this time. Again, we're working on continuing to build the progress that we've had so far.
Is there an area that's kind of been hit hardest the most, or an area that's a main focus? I know you said southern with the winds, but right now.
Yeah, and again, I think for the entire incident so far, we've really been focusing on life safety. So making sure that any residents that are impacted are away from danger as best as we can, and then once those residents are away from danger, making sure that we're taking care of their property, we're taking care of their livelihoods, and that way they're able to return to those areas once they're getting clear.
You said the fire's not as active today as it was yesterday. 783 acres have burned. Of that 783, how many acres is the fire currently?
That's a little bit of a difficult question because it's not. When we say 783 acres, it's not that entire area has burned. There may be pockets of unburnt fuel that are in there, unburnt vegetation, but that is the general fire perimeter. So as far as specific square feet that's burned, I don't have an accurate number.
And do you have an idea of how big the fire actually is right now?
Again, we're still going with the 783 acres as the fire perimeter, so that's the best number.
Could you tell us about what kind of wildlife, what kind of trees are at the 783 acres?
I can't speak to that right now. That's going to be more of a Texas Parks and Wildlife type of question, if that makes sense.
What were the weather conditions when the prescribed burn started? Humidity as well as wind conditions?
I do not know that information right now. That was, I think, discussed at an earlier interview, but I can get that information to you at some point today.
Do you know what went into kind of making the decision to go ahead and move forward with the prescribed burn?
So prescribed burning is a very complex task, and the planning process can take anywhere from weeks in advance to months in advance. There's a lot of different characteristics that go into that process, from desired conditions after the burn to wind speed, weather conditions prior to it. It's a very complex task and planning process that goes into any sort of decision before you put fire on it.
I think there's been 18 prescribed burns since 2011. What was different perhaps about this one?
I honestly can't say anything about that. I was not part of many of those prescribed fires or this one today. I'm here as a public information officer, but I was not a part of the burn yesterday, so I can't give.
Okay. Do you think we might be able to get those answers around 3:15 today?
I don't know if the 3:15 press conference is going to be about the prescribed burn. I know for sure it's going to be about the evacuations. I know that Carter Smith, the head of the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department, has said that he is going to start the investigation once we have made sure that everybody's safe and this fire's out. So right at this time, I don't think that information is going to be available because we haven't been able to start because we're focusing on making sure that everybody's safe.
Okay. And do you have any idea how many people are required to be present for a prescribed burn?
It varies depending on the burn and the size of the burn. Again, that is part of the larger planning process that can be very complex.
Okay.
Is there any more of the fire contained than earlier this morning?
No, at the moment we're still holding it at 30%. Again, that is we're being a little bit conservative right now because we don't have as accurate mapping yet today. We're hoping that later this afternoon, once we get on the ground accurate mapping, be able to update that containment number. So it may be higher than what we're saying right now, but we're waiting.
So that's a qualifier, but forward movement has stopped.
Currently, yes. We have containment lines around the fire. We're not saying that the fire, because we don't have complete accurate mapping of the.
And there's more vegetation inside that ring that could be consumed.
Yes, there is vegetation on the inside that, again, is still burning, still putting off smoke. So that's why we still have smoke in the air. We have fire on the ground, but it's not near the containment lines. Does anybody else have any questions, comments, concerns?
Can you spell your name again, your last name?
My last name is going to be spelled Bregenzer.
Thank you.
Thanks, Al.
Down in front. And if we haven't already got your contact information, if you wouldn't mind meeting up with me real quick so we can get your information, that way we can kind of keep you up to date on when we're holding work. And again, 3:15, same spot, later this afternoon.
Later this afternoon.
Yes.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thanks so much for sticking with us here on KXAN Live. I'm Will Dupree, coming to you from the KXAN Live studio. We just heard from a representative sharing another update about the ongoing fire that's burning that they're calling the Rolling Pines Fire in Bastrop. This started as a controlled, prescribed burn at Bastrop State Park, and embers, it appears from what the experts are saying today, is that embers from that fire spread because of the wind and sparked other fires in that area. Now burned more than 780 acres, only 30% contained. That number has held from this morning after they held a briefing earlier today sharing the latest information. So they're hoping to be able to get a better sense of the fire's size, However, forward movement of the fire has been stopped. Crews have been able to completely almost create containment lines around the entirety of the fire using bulldozers. That's the information they shared today, and it appears that remains true based on this update. I will tell you that they just mentioned that there will be another briefing at 3:15. We may get some new information about the status of evacuation orders in Bastrop. Right now, all those remain in effect. We do have a list of all the places that are affected by those evacuation orders available right now on KXAN.com. So please check that out if you haven't seen it already. And if you're wondering if maybe your home or your family or friends' home is still affected by this, chances are it might be, because if you look at that list, they are all included there. We will be back at 3:15 coming up in about 2 hours to share the latest information about the ongoing fire in Bastrop. So please stay with us for that. Keep your phone handy as well, because we'll be sharing updates and pushing out new information on the KXAN News app. Thanks again, everybody, for watching here on KXAN Live. I'm Will Dupree. We will see you back here in just a little while later this afternoon, so we'll see you then. Everybody, take care.